Hey guys, how's it going? Coming into our third season in charge of Bromsgrove now. Obviously in the end stayed up relatively comfortably last time out, but it was a little bit of a disappointing campaign. Rather than usual back for the first game, which is coming up shortly, I thought we'd have a little look at the squad. It is, as tends to happen at this level, a pretty much new look. There's a lot of new players. A lot of players have moved on, so there's lots of change. I thought we'd have a little look, see what we've got, see how we're looking to set up, and see what we still need to bring in as well. So first things first, pre-season, as you can see, it's gone pretty well. We've not played too many teams of note. I mean, Redditch is our level, so that was a really encouraging result, and we smashed them as well. I don't think they had a shot, so that was really good. But it's the sort of 3 clean sheets in a row since we've tweaked the tactics and whatever. Difficult to make one because, I mean, the squad still is pretty small. I'm doing like a sort of squad review, but it's like 2/3 strength or something. I think we do need to bring in quite a few players still. But we'll go through that in just a second. But I worked with what we've got, came up with something sort of based on what we ended the season with, where we sort of were a little bit stronger, and it seems to be okay. That could all come apart when we start the season. But let's have a look and see what we've got and see what we're working with. So we'll start at the beginning then, guys. Goalkeepers. This is the area where there isn't any change. Let's just clear all of this out. We've got Ben Dudzinski. The dude had a decent season with us last season, didn't he? He was pretty solid. Couple of ricks here and there, but it's bound to happen. He's going to start as probably our first choice. You've seen him before. He looks pretty handy, and I'm pretty happy with that. And Joe Young thankfully stayed on as well, because I think long term there's a bit more about Joe Young. More than happy this season to try and give him a little bit more game time. The main area is this communication. That's obviously a problem, which hopefully will develop. But happy for him to be our second goalkeeper, and maybe he stakes a claim over the next season or two. If we're successful, it's probably sort of the position that we strengthen and bring someone new in altogether. We did have a couple of trials of players that frankly were better, but the money they wanted was ridiculous, and it's not a priority position. I'm pretty cool. So at the back, I mean, as I said, the whole squad, it's a little bit thin. We still need to bring players in. In terms of outs, we don't have Charlie Wive, don't have Jordan Eli. You saw leave. They've all moved on. Garmston's still here, who is the sort of, well, I mean, that's not looking good, is it? To be fair, but he's reasonably quick, reasonably athletic. His crossing and stuff, so it's all okay. It's all like 8, 9, 10. He is the more sort of attacking option, wing-back option down that left-hand side. More than happy to keep him for now. Might be something that we look to improve on as we go. But again, not a priority position. That being said, we've got Henry Curtis as well. Really useful to have these utility players that can play on both sides of multiple positions, because at this level I feel like with the money situation how it is, we're choosing quality or depth. You can't afford both. So if we've got a handful of these sort of utility players who can play multiple positions, it means we can take a little bit of a risk and not have quite as big a squad and have some hopefully better players in for it as well. But Curtis has played pretty well for us, whichever side he's been on. He's been solid. A little bit more of a defensive option, but again, it's a similar mould. Reasonably athletic, okay. I mean, he's not as good at Garmston technically, but a little bit lacking in those areas, but defending wise and the basics of crossing and dribbling is sort of adequate, and that's what we need at this point. We're not looking for anything too massive there. I think that's about it from last season. No, we had Jake Barrett as well, didn't we? And he was just starting to come in, and actually I think the assistants and coaches at least think he's got huge potential. And to be fair, he's got all the stats that you need for us at this level for a central defender. Heading, marking, tackling are all decent. Mentals are okay. Aggression's the problem, and so I've experimented using him as sort of a covering role rather than the player that goes out and has to be aggressive and win headers and things like that. And that seems to be working pretty well. So hopefully he's one that we can build a defence around a little bit, because he's still young at 23. So a nice solid start there, and we needed to bring players in to partner him, which we've done. Nico Jones, really happy with this one. We're only paying him £70 a week. He was a free agent. Young 21-year-old Irishman. He was at Brentford. I mean, it looks like he moved up to Brentford from sort of the lower leagues as well. So Really pleased with that. Again, heading, marking, tackling. This guy's got the aggression though, so he's the no nonsense. He's the sort of, I don't like using a stopper and a cover. I could never quite get it, but he's the aggressive one. He's the one that's going to come out and make the challenges. Hopefully, 6'4" as well. Really pleased with that. So we've got him for next to nothing, and him and Barrett hopefully are the partnership there. And then we've got Levi Lang. I don't know how you pronounce it. Another really pleasing one. It's sort of lacking in two key areas that stop him being really good at either fullback or central defence. Marking, tackling, brilliant, 13, 14. He's 6'1", 11 strength, 14 pace, 15 jumping reach, 15 acceleration. Concentration is good. 5 heading. If he had that heading, I think he'd be top quality for this level. And it's the same with this side. He's got that marking and tackling still. He's got the pace and the aggression, so you could play him as a wing. 3 crossing. I don't need a huge amount, but 3. It means he can't cross. So he's going to be. That's a little bit of a problem. But I brought him in anyway because he's got good. He was at Arsenal, West Ham, Brentford. He's done the rounds of the sort of Premier Division London clubs. But you can see the rest of him, apart from those 2 key areas, which I appreciate, stop him playing at a decent level. But for here, he can work as a backup or just another option. Third choice centre back, full back, second choice full back, whatever you want to call it. And he can do defensive midfield as well, which to be fair, his passing's 7. It's not great, but you want to put him in there as an anchor or as an extra, bit of a destroyer. We could do that as well. So, and again, another really sort of useful, versatile player to have. So that's pretty much it defensively. I'm happy with that. We just need to add a little bit more depth. I think perhaps another centre half, maybe another fullback. I'm pretty happy. Right, midfield. Now this is where we ended the season with strength. We've lost Josh Dugmore. He's gone to Waterford, so he'll be playing in sort of professional Irish football next season. So it'd be nice to keep an eye on him. I think that's it for like the major outgoings there. We lost the likes of what was his name? O'Toole, whatever. A couple of those players and Nabay and people that were on the fringes. So nothing too devastating. We've kept our best ones apart from Dugmore, and we've added a little bit as well. So we've still got Monlouis. He's a good option as definitely backup, but he's sort of all round. Again, he's fairly athletic. He can pass a bit. He can tackle a bit. So he can play on the right. But I think I've been using him as a sort of backup in these sorts of positions. Purely because he can sort of do a more attacking role. He can pass a little bit. He can just be the ball winner, whatever. So he's along the lines of Levi Lang and Curtis and whatever, and he can play a bunch of roles and a bunch of positions. So happy to keep him around, and he seems to perform relatively well. James Rowe, he's one of the sort of passers. If I play with a deep line playmaker or any sort of playmaker, tends to be him. He's only got 9 passing. But touch technique, he's decent on the ball as well, decent amount of flair, so creativity's there, and he's not the most athletic, so I do prefer to use him as a pivot somewhere. And again, he performs well for us because he can also play in multiple positions. He can play that deep line playmaker role, he can play in an attacking sort of central midfield role, and he's our new captain as well, so bit of experience at 31. He's been about, as you can see, so a good one to have in there. Jack Buchanan, haven't seen too much of him. We brought him in just towards the end. He ain't got much in the way of technical ability, but he's a tackler, he's a marker. He's almost like a centre back. Again, he's another one that's 5 strength. He's just got one attribute that's letting him down, and he's only 5'7". So he's 12 aggression. He's got some mentals to work on. He's only 23, but again, he's more of a backup player or a player that we bring in when we need a little bit more steel in midfield. We're playing against a big team away from home, something like that. Just to run around and smash people, basically. We're not paying him any wages. He's on a sort of non-contract, so was more than happy to keep him around for a bit of depth. Corey Brennan, I think, is going to be the star man for us this season. The way I've set up, it's going to be a couple of the attacking midfield roles in the central midfield that are going to be the ones that get the goals and the assists. First touch, his passing abilities there. Again, he could play a deep line playmaker role, but I think we'd lose something from him. 6 foot tall. Decent pace at 12, 11 acceleration, and he can tackle and technique. He's got a bit, but his decision making and things like that. Already in pre-season, I think he scored the most goals for us. Yeah, five goals in 4 starts and a sub. he I think is going to be the man. I think where did we get him from? He was released from Burnley, wasn't he? Played 40 times for us last season. Under the radar, really. I didn't sort of realise he did quite well, but it was more towards the end of the season. And this season, I think we found a role for him that will suit. Similarly, Teddy Davey is going to be hopefully doing the exact same thing. He's a similar sort of player. First touch, passing, technique. He's a little bit more of specialist in terms of the attacking role. He hasn't got the range of ability like Brennan has in other ways, tackling and things like that. He's not as physical, but he's still got decent pace, still got good decision making and work rate, just like Brennan has. So another one. I think he came Southampton. He was playing at Poole as well, wasn't he? So he's so far been a slightly lesser Brennan, but he's a little bit younger, a little bit longer to go. They're the two that I'm relying on to create and score the goals for me. Where does that bring us to? Lewis Bradley, you know him from last time. First season he was a quality for us in centre midfield, wasn't he? He was all sorts of versatile, he could do all sorts of things. Played him out on the right, it didn't quite work as well. This season, because you'll see in the tactics in a minute, I'm going to play with 3 centre midfielders. He's a bit of not quite a backup, between a backup and a first choice. He's sort of in there in a rotation role. I think Brennan and Davey are the two that are sort of set in there, and then depending on the game and the role, someone else will fit in. But Bradley's a good one to have because again he can do he's got good work rate, decent pace, passing. He's an all-rounder, and he can do most of those roles as well. So although we're a little bit light on numbers, I think if we're going to play 3 in there, I don't know, we might need another. I'm not sure. If we get an injury or a suspension or something like that, and then a run of games, it's gonna wear thin. So it looks like we're stacked in midfield, but we're not playing with any wingers or anything at the minute. So we'll keep a lookout. But if it's anything like last season, we found a load of them. So it might leave a little bit of room for some real youngsters if there's any promising ones. Sometimes a bit of a waste of time at this level, but that's what we'll keep our eye out for. We can still add a little bit of depth in there. Right, attacking players. This one won't take long. Shamabako. He's still not that great, but he seems to have revitalised himself a little bit in pre-season. I don't want to jump the gun too much, but he's scored a few goals. He's got a few assists. He's got a good rating, albeit against lesser teams. It was a little bit of sentiment that kept him on. I do think we're paying him a little bit too much, but Lalose left and Penga left. I wasn't too bothered, to be honest, by either of them, but they wouldn't sign new contracts anyway, so they wanted to go. So whatever. I think there's better out there than them and Bacco. So we're looking to bring someone in, but more than happy to have him as one of the, a backup striker or one of the two or whatever. He's definitely got a knack when he's on form of banging goals in, and it is that composure and decision making, I think, and off the ball movement that sets him apart from some of the other strikers at this level. So he's the one recognised striker at the moment. We did bring in Marlon Agyakwa, I think. We brought him in as a winger last season, but I mean he can play up front, and actually he's formed a decent partnership with Bacco at times. Not got in the goals himself because he isn't, he's not a natural 6 finishing. He's not a natural striker, but using him as as a pressing forward or a deep line forward as a bit of a foil for Bacco has worked quite well, and he also gives us the option to put him on the left, put him on the right if we need to change things up during the game. So nothing to set the world alight with Marlon, but he's playing well for us so far. So good options. So what we need, well, it's mainly depth, isn't it? I said we can't have huge amounts of quality and huge amounts of depth, and I think that's right. But clearly, we need a couple more attacking players. We probably need another centre back. Probably need another centre midfielder. Probably just another player or two in each of those positions. Maybe just another versatile defender, another decent midfielder, and then probably 2 attacking players. Ideally, I think I'd like a real good striker for the level, even if we have to pay sort of the upper end of our budget in terms of wages. And then maybe a player or 2 that can play up front, but they can play attacking midfield, or they can play out wide. A bit of versatility going forward as well, so we can change things. That's the ideal. We're on the lookout. We've missed out on a couple of players, where they've chosen to go to other clubs after offering them contracts and things like that, which always happens. So, but we'll keep going. And although the season's coming up fast, I'm okay going into that first game with this sort of threadbare squad, because we'll find a couple of players to add to it. So tactically, this changes. It does change, but this is the basic shape. We are stacked in that midfield area, so that's what we're playing. You get usually James Rowe playing here, but we can make this a more defensive role. We can switch this up to be a little bit more attacking, whatever. It's a little bit versatile like that, and because of the players we've got, we can change those roles. But Brennan on the left with his left foot, Davey on the right with his right foot. These are the positions coming into this space that I'm relying on, and they're the ones that have worked so far, especially with Brennan, as I say. What we can do, as I said, we've got Bako and Agakwa up here. I can bring him out here, use him as a winger. You know, Garmston's more than capable of bombing up and down that left-hand side. I can bring him in as an inside forward and overload that left-hand side. We've got options, and depending on what we bring in, it's only going to make it more versatile. I've kept it as simple as possible, but we're playing some good stuff. And again, this can be tweaked and this can be changed. The other thing I've messed around with is this. I started off as a more defensive one because I just wanted to sort of practice with it, but actually it works as an attacking one as well. I used it because of fitness in one of the friendlies. Played 3 at the back. I think I missed out Scandal Lazenbury going through it, but he's not going to be good enough to play for us. He's someone that came through the youth ranks that had to promote to the senior squad at the end of last season because we just didn't have enough players. So he probably won't hang around, but this is certainly an option for us if we want to pack that defence and sort of our half a little bit more, and if we can get a little bit more from a wing-back position, it's an option for us to bomb on in sort of wide areas as well. I'm toying with the inverted wing-backs so that they sort of fill the position of the centre midfielders. We'll see. Again, it's dependent on the players. But otherwise, we're pretty well set up. I'm not too fussed with the lack of width. I usually like to have wingers or inside forwards or whatever, but I've not really seen a lot in terms of quality that the scouts have brought to me to sign in those sorts of areas. So I'm happy with this. We've got the strength here. This is what we're going to go with. So there we are, guys. You've seen me play. I've said it many a time. I'm no tactical genius, but hopefully that's just a little bit of an insight into how we want to play. Again, I like to keep it fairly simple and build on it through pre-season. And to be honest, it's just worked okay. So, you know, we press a reasonable amount, we play through the middle, and we keep it simple. We get the players that we want to get forward, and we keep the players that we don't want to get forward back a little bit. And I think at this level, that's all you need is numbers forward, numbers back, and let the quality do the talking. We'll see how that goes in the season. We might have to do a little bit more, but it's gone pretty well so far. Just to finish then, guys, so you saw the at the end of the last one, we had the takeover. Mike Burke stepped down. In came, was it Jack Lee, was it? Local businessman, Jack Lee. Well-known local businessman. Jack Lee, yeah. So, whatever, don't know who he is, fine. He's come in, he said there was going to be no investment. They sorted the debt out. But I didn't realise it was by way of bank loan. So we still have a net debt of 452,000 that we're paying back in a big chunk of 3.6k a month. So it's only going to go back in the same direction. But it does mean that for now, at least, where are we? For now, at least, we've got that budget. Once I got rid of all the scouting budget and moved it into transfer and into wages, just over 5,000, which is more than last season. So we've still got a decent amount, just over about 1,100 to play with. So more than enough to bring in sort of 3 or 4, I think, quality players, and hopefully we won't get too bad with injuries because, you know, then we might struggle. And that's it, really. We're already back in the red. That's only going to go down again, just like this, but it buys us some time. The board just want us to avoid a relegation fight this year, so it's a little bit more than last year. But I would hope we want to kick on. I don't want to be hovering down in that bottom half again. I wonder what the season preview is. What are the media saying about us? Let's have a little look before we finish. So they're saying 17th. So they're saying, what is that? A couple of divisions higher than they thought last season. We came 14th. I don't know how to call it. I mean, I would like to be up here fighting for promotion or at least playoffs. I think promotion might be a bit much. But I think if we can just improve on last year, then that will be a success. But really, we want to kick on and get into the conference as soon as possible. So it would be nice, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So it won't be too long before I come back, guys. Gateshead in the first game, tough one because I don't know where. We should actually check, shouldn't we? They were second, weren't they, when we played them last season? Yeah. Okay, so they're runaway favourites for the league. So baptism of fire, really. it looks like half of the team of the sort of media Dream 11 is made up of Gateshead players as well, which they're very short odds to go up. So this will be a tough one. Maybe it's a good thing, get it out of the way. It's a little bit of a bonus game. If we get something from it, great. If not, forget about it and move on. We'll go into it with a bit of confidence and see what we can do. So we'll come back for that anyway. And it looks like we've got a rivalry early on with Kiddie. So you might have a couple of early season episodes before we blast through. But we'll see how it goes. So that's it, guys. A little bit different. No game for you at this time, I'm sorry, but don't worry, it won't be long before the next episode. Check out all of the other stuff on the channel. Hopefully you're enjoying the network game. That's been good fun. You know where all the like and subscribe stuff is. I won't bore you with it. Take care of yourselves and see you next time.